Welcome to the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review Podcast, episode 107. On this show, we showcase gun reviews, gear, and anything else a gun enthusiast may be looking for. We strive to evaluate products from an unbiased and honest perspective. I have the wrong panel for that. I am your co-host, as Ryan wrote it here, Nick Humphries from the Firearms Radio Network, Practically Tactical on the Firearms Radio Network. Your source for broadcast, your source for broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. I'm not used to this whole intro thing. But real quick here before we get started, a couple announcements. The bandwidth sponsor for this episode of Gun and Gear Review is Patriot Patch Company. They just added a couple new shirts available for pre-order. Go check those out. We have the Celebrate Diversity shirt, as well as the Rails Lasers ? Niet, rifle is fine. So all of you East Block AK guys, you got to go to Patriot Patch Company and go pre-order the AK Niet rifle shirt. So let's move on to our guests here. I have a person I met 2 seconds ago. I have Jesse, and then of course I have Matt. So let's start with David Merrill, the magic word putter downer at Recoil Magazine, Breech Bang Clear. David, it is a pleasure to meet you, and thanks for coming on.
Well, it's great to meet you too.
Yes. Up next, I have my cohort in trouble over at Practically Tactical, my good buddy Jesse. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah. Thanks for not shaving. I shaved today, if you couldn't tell.
Oh, no, now we're in the month of November again, so again, you're all good.
Yeah.
Just keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
Up next, we have Matt Landfair from the Primary and Secondary, Novus and Secondary. You guys should catch him on my show as well. I want to say episode 60, 79, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
You guys check that out with Matt Landfair. Actually, when Matt was on, we discussed lots of lights and lumens.
Yeah.
So if you guys are curious, we're going to be talking about a lot of lights on this episode. If you guys want to know more about that, go check that out. Or the last episode we did with Steve Fisher of Sentinel Concepts as well. Go check that out. I actually got a couple promo codes for you guys before we start the show as well. Use promo code RTTCOMBO, so RTT Combo, and the number 10, and you get 10% off your order at Bravo Concealment. And since we're talking SureFire lights, our good buddy Ike from Big Tex Outdoors actually gave us a code for our listeners that I'm going to send to you guys. So if you use code PRACTAC, capital P, capital T, capital P, capital T, and PRACTAC, you guys get 15% off SureFire lights on your next order at BigTexOutdoors.com. Of course, go check the show notes for this episode, and you guys will see them. So, if the title didn't give it away, we're talking all SureFire lights on this episode. The reason I'm doing that is there's been a couple model changes at SureFire, so I think there's going to be a lot of really, really good lights out there for a good price, as SureFire has been kind of clearing some out online. So I thought we'd go through several of those as well, talk about their one of their newest lights that's come on the market that I've had the opportunity to run through a couple classes. So we're going to be talking all SureFire lights. We're going to be discussing the P3X Fury Tactical, the P2X Fury Tactical, and then the P2X Fury with IntelliBeam technology. So first up, I will go to does anyone here not run the P3X Fury on their rifle?
I run mostly Scout Series. I have some M600s, some M300s I can't push enough ass out of. But yeah, mostly run an M600 with different heads, usually. Okay. And then everybody else has, I know, Jesse, you have the P3X Tactical, P3X Fury Tactical. Yeah. And what about you, Matt?
Yeah, the EAG model.
Okay. So,
P3X.
Okay. So basically the clicky cap with just single output.
Yes.
Okay. So real quick here for you guys that aren't maybe familiar with the P3X Fury, I'll run through some of the statistics for you guys. So it's 1,000 lumen. It's pretty much the baddest boy out there right now. It gives you a tactical runtime, according to SureFire's website, tactical runtime of 2.25 hours. So during that 2.25 hours, you're basically not getting 1,000 lumens the whole time. It is slightly longer at 6.6 inches, has a bezel diameter of 1.37 inches. Weight with batteries is 7.2 ounces. And then the batteries, it's 3 of the 123As in there, so it's a three battery flashlight. I really, really enjoy running this flashlight. I got to run it through the Sentinel Concepts low light class, and then David. So I'm going to come back to you on this because I would like to get your comparison of it versus the Scout lights, because obviously the Scout lights are fantastic lights as well. So Jesse, you had the opportunity to run this while we were there in Alliance, Ohio the whole week, plus the Sentinel Concepts low light class. What's kind of your thoughts on the power and the function of this light?
Oh man, just awesome. Never once did I have to worry about the light. We'd take it back to about 100 yards was probably about the farthest that we were PIDing positively targets, and yeah, I mean, just a great hotspot, good throw on it, good clear beam that starts about 6 feet in front of you and spreads nice and wide. And yeah, I mean, just compared to all the other lights that were out there and that we've kind of seen, I mean, it's just, like you said, the baddest boy on the market right now. So really liked it. I mean, held up great. Got the lens nice and dirty, but other than that, I didn't really notice a lot of drop off. That was one of the big concerns going in, as everybody talked about, like compared to the P2X, there was a lot of drop off. Like you got 1,000 lumens for 10 minutes, and then you were already cutting it down. And I didn't really experience a lot of drop off with it. I mean, you could see it fading as the hours went through the class, but yeah, again, quick battery swap, and it was good to go again. So I really like the light, man.
Okay. So Matt, why did you choose to go with the P3X versus, for example, the M600 Scout light?
Pretty much I started with the P2X, the 500 lumen, and I wound up in a situation on duty where I had a suicidal armed suspect who was backlit, and I was unable to identify. I was unable to see if he was completely clear. The output on the light that I had on my weapon wasn't sufficient compared to what I had for handheld. So just based on that, I wound up swapping them out, and now the 1,000 lumen one rides on the rifle.
Okay. How long have you had the light?
A couple months now. I don't know exactly, but yeah, it's been a few months.
Were you
very happy with it?
Were you able to run it down at Darcy at all, or use it at all?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I loaned it out to some students. They really liked the output. As a matter of fact, it was almost like when one student had it, no one else needed a light. It was awesome.
Well, there were a couple of guys that had like TLR ones, and one guy had it, and I went, "Oh man!" I said, "I've got an X300U. I've got a spare. Do you want that?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't know." I'm like, "Yeah, just take that shit off. Put this U-boat on your rifle, and you'll be much better with that, much happier in that situation."
And also over at Darcy, there were a couple people that had some reservations about having that much light. And so what I did was I took them. We went to the shoot house when everything was cold, and we went through a bunch of rooms. And he just had the one flashlight and saw it works awesome. It's not blinding. It's rather functional, especially in that closed environment.
Yeah. Now, here's a question too. Do you feel the need? So the P3X Fury Tactical, for those out there, is a momentary only. So, and I actually have one reservation about the actual cap itself, because it's not really a push button. You're actually just pushing the whole tail cap, if that's the right term for it. But do you think it? I view it as running it through class. I really, really want the clicky tail cap in there, because I noticed through recoil, especially if, I mean, you throw it on, you go run it in a class, and then you make some adjustments. And I still need to make a little more adjustments on mine. Yeah. I was using an ADM rifle at the time for review, so I didn't quite have it right. So I found myself during recoil sometimes I would lose the light. Yeah. Versus I really kind of want that tail cap. So you can order the SureFire clicky one, and then I think you can cut one of the wires I've read online.
That's right.
What we're talking about here is you can get it reduces the lumens on the soft press, and the clicky, it stays at the full 1,000. What we're talking about is turning our light into momentary 1,000, or you click it and it stays at 1,000. But do you feel that's a need on the P3X Fury Tactical?
The EAG model that I have, that's how I like it. I like having clicky. I also like having momentary. I have no use for multiple modes. I've been on traffic stops where I accidentally had the wrong mode going, and that doesn't work. Especially if there's any type of stress, that's not conducive to your mission. So for me, I like clicky, and I like momentary, and I like single output.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Jesse, you agree with that as well?
Yeah, definitely. Like you're saying, just fatigue, doing kind of like some of the ladder drills and the longer drills where you had that rifle up for a long time with that light on. You could definitely notice where it would have been nice to be able to just constant click cap it on like I've got set up on the P2X. But yeah, that's an adjustment I'll definitely have to make to the tactical model.
Yeah. So, David, what have your experiences been with the P3X Fury Tactical? And then I'd love to get a comparison versus the Scout Lights.
Okay, well, I also agree. For a weapon light, I want it high all the time. I don't want to dick with different settings. If it's a task light or something like that, I mean, all right, I can buy that. But on a weapon, I want it high all the time. I do like having a constant on option, and mostly, and that's probably just from playing overseas. You can't just flip light switches on when you're done doing a raid. So it's like, hey, everyone turns on their light. Now, 10 years ago, when we had 120 lumens for 20 minutes, and by the way, which we fucking loved, loved that. God, it was the light of God, right? But it would run the lights down. But with the run times we have now, when you're done and you're doing a sensitive site exploitation, something like that, turn all the lights on, illuminate everything. But yeah, I did the soft push and clicky for a long time, especially with the old Millennium series. With the Scout Lights, I do like using a pressure pad, but only the SR series pressure pad it has the momentary and the constant button. I don't like the ST switches, but yeah, just because you get a better ambi use. I run it at the 12 o'clock rail, but that's what I would want. I would want a clicky with a P3X, the soft and constant on. I don't think it's as bad. It's not a bad option to have, even if you don't use it. As I ramble on.
Now, Jesse, going back to this, for those unfamiliar, Jesse was in the Army. Wasn't there a guy at the class who actually had an incandescent bulb, like the one that you used in Iraq in like 2006?
Yeah, definitely. Like the old foregrip one that's like on the bottom of it.
The 900.
Oh yeah, and just man, seeing that light, and like you said back then, it was like, dude, that was so bright, and compared to like what we have now, it's like, oh man, we've just jumped tenfold, so. And I mean, those lights, they were the incandescent bulbs, like they were so prone. If you drop that light one time, it was like the bulb cracked, it broke out, with the nice new LED heads, like you don't have to worry about rattling them around as much. So, yeah, just a way nicer light, But I mean, again, SureFire's been a staple for that long, They were ahead of their game back then, so.
The incandescent bulbs still actually have some advantage. They'll cut through smoke and fog better than the LEDs. Kind of like how if you're in a snowstorm, you turn off your brights and you have the fog lights, and that would be the advantage. So like you'll still see like firefighters and stuff like that, and some guys in some units still like incandescents, but you just don't get the raw power. And I did see one test where OPFOR found LEDs more disorienting than incandescents.
No, we could definitely notice that, like, especially it's starting to get cold down at Alliance a little bit, and we'd take them out at night, and yeah, as soon as you'd break that first shot, it was a wall of just smoke, carbon, dust, and you had to literally drop almost down to prone to be able to avoid that, and then it was moving 15 feet, so you could definitely see where the super bright LED, I mean, it would just choke everything around you. It turned into, like, all spill at those moments, and yeah, you couldn't see anything.
No, that was. For those that have not went out and shot a rifle, compensator rifle at that, when it's cold outside, go do that. You learn a lot about how the heat from the shot going off plus the cold air, and then yeah, it's a mess. But so for those that are out there, this comes in at a price of $250. The reason I'm bringing up this light is they actually just released a new model of this. Has slight different design changes. The internals are still the same for everything that I have found. So, and for those out there that were like, well, how do I tell what's the new and what's the old? If you check out the show notes, I have pictures of the new model, and then I have pictures of the old model in the show notes. Basically, the new ones have the checkering on them. The old models do not. So the old ones have like kind of like finger grooves or grooves in them. The new ones do not have that, but they have checkering on it. So that's the easy way to check that to know the difference in those. But I think I picked up mine when SureFire has been pushing out a lot of lights on discount, and they had this light for we bought it for $120, didn't we, Jesse?
Yeah, like 128 ship, something like that. So,
which you couldn't pass up for the baddest boy on the market. But that was the older generation, and so there's the new one out, and all it is a body change. Again, from everything that I have found, talking with some SureFire distributors, is exactly the same. So there's that one. Again, I think it's a really great buy, and something we've talked about too, and feel free for anybody to jump on there, is when we mount these lights on our rifles, you want to get the light that will take advantage of your firearms capability. So, for example, before, actually, where's it? Do I still have it on my desk? Somewhere I had my Enforce 200. Oh, there it is, right there. I had a Enforce 200 lumen light, and yeah, that just nothing. And that's when you really learn that when you take a 200 lumen light out on your rifle, that it's limiting the capabilities of your rifle versus 1,000 lumens, and then you actually get, it will help you take advantage of your firearms capability. And so I think that's really where this light shines, is really utilizing the light to give you greater distances, whether it's it's a AR-15 or an AR-308 or whatever caliber it might be. But I'll throw that out there on the floor to anybody else that wants to add on that.
No, I think, like you said, you were kind of shooting off of my light when you had that WML attached. So, if
I remember correctly, I actually had you pull out your X300U to give me more light.
So,
at 80 yards, which is not that far.
No. Nope. So, like I said earlier, I mean, that I never really wanted more out of that light. At the distances we were shooting, the drills we were doing during those low light classes, it performed everything that I needed it to. I could worry more on the problem-solving aspect than not being able to identify the target. So.
Yeah. How much is the EAG clicky cap? Do you know, Matt?
I think it's about. I thought it was the same. Or I think it might be a little bit more. I can look it up as we speak. Okay. I have Google right here.
Can you buy just the tail cap?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, if you go on Amazon, the SureFire sells just the tail cap for, I want to say, like $32, something like that.
Well, hell.
Okay. Well, now we know. Let me know if you find it, Matt. I'm going to move on here to the next light, which, in my opinion, is, I think, the best bang for the buck EDC light out there. Now, I know this is going to be, a lot of people out there will say, oh, I have an O light or another light that does that great. I'm not going to argue against that. However, I think when we look at the P2X Fury Tactical, the performance versus the weight and the size and the lumens is one of the best out there. So I bring this up again because they actually just, I think a couple months ago, they brought out the 600 lumen version versus the 500 lumen version. And so the 600 lumens are really starting to crank out now on the market, and so you can find the 500 ones for a lot cheaper. Now, there are two different body models of the 500, the PTX 3 500 lumen, and then the newest one, the 600 lumen, has its own unique body style. I'll put those in the show notes for you guys as well, so you can see that. Again, I believe the checkering is the biggest difference on the newest model. So it comes in at 600 lumens. It gives you a tactical run time of 1.5 hours. It is smaller than the P3X that we just discussed at only 5.4 inches. Bezel diameter of 1.37 with the body diameter of 1 inch, so it fits in all your standard 1-inch mounts. For those watching on YouTube, Jesse actually has it on the screen right there. Weight with batteries is 5.7 ounces. It runs on two 123A batteries. So, Matt, I'll go to you this first. Do you think this is the best EDC light?
Right now, I'm running the.
If you weigh all the options.
I'm still running the P3X, which on Bravo Company, 150.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the older model?
It's the older model.
Okay, yeah. So the older models are coming out there really cheap. $150 for 1,000 lumens. That's hard to beat.
Yeah.
All right, but see, I found the P3X Fury to be just a little too long for the pocket. I almost did a "that's what she said" joke, but I'm not going to do that because we're classy right here.
Yeah.
just so classy.
No, the P2X is outstanding. It's been great for me. On my duty belt, that's what I have as on my belt in my cargo pocket. The P3X is there. However, the P3X is the first one I always go to for work.
Yeah.
But when I can, it's the P3X.
Okay. David, what are your thoughts on the P2X Fury?
Well, honestly, if for an everyday carry light, I like something a little bit smaller. And most of the time, I guess I should preface this with I always carry with a weapon light. So I carry a Glock 19 with an X300U. I have a dedicated weapon light all the time, and I've been only carrying with a weapon light for several years now. So when I have a light in my pocket, it's purely a utilitarian thing. Like, yes, I can use it to fight with, but I mean, I don't like to choose the second best option, in that role. And so having a dedicated weapon light on my carry gun all the time, I want something more utilitarian in my pocket. I've been carrying a E2D since 2004, I think, and I've upgraded it to an LED and everything else. It's still, I don't know, 150 lumens or something kind of ridiculous, but I'm going to be using that most of the time for like, oh shit, I dropped my keys, or something like that. But I want something like that aviator body, that smaller style body, just fits in the pocket a lot better. My only real complaint about the E2D is I think the pocket clip is the wrong way. It's set for like bezel up in the pocket, which drives me nuts. I actually covered the whole thing with paracord and just shove it in, and I put a car key on the end of it, so I can just pull it out of my pocket when I need it for something. So for an EDC, I use it more like a task light. If it was going to be like a supplement for CCW or something like that, then I definitely would want something bigger. Probably a P2X, a P3X would be a little bit big. But I wear like pants that fit and stuff like that too. So
yeah, you do.
To put a spare mag in my pocket and a flashlight. We start adding and a pocket knife. We start getting a little bulky with that. So I do like the smaller lights. But if I was going to carry it, I did carry a 6P for several years ago. One of the periods I lost my E2D, but P2X is virtually the same body size. So. Yeah. It's doable. It just wouldn't be my choice, my preference on that.
Okay.
Lifestyle choice, yeah.
Now, here's something we'll jump off to real quick here, because what all of us carry. I think all of us carry weapon mounted lights. All of us carry SureFire X300Us. Does anybody have the newest one, the B model?
The B model? No.
No. Okay. I did just hear today, though, from Ike at Big Tex Outdoors that he tried the B in his previous holsters, and they all fit, even though SureFire told him that they wouldn't. So I can't confirm that for everybody's holsters, but he passed that tidbit on to me.
Dimensionally, are they a little longer?
The mounting is different on the B. They went to what?
It has the X400 style mounting, the crossbar style. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, for those out there, we're not going to be covering on this show, but there's new X300Us, the X300UB, which is a 600 lumen versus the old 500 lumen. So for all of us lumen chases out there, I'm sure we'll eventually get it because we're weird like that. But Raven clips, switchbacks, on your lights, do you guys run anything along those lines? I mean, the SureFire clips obviously are known to break. What do you have there, Matt?
The Raven clip with the ring, yeah. I like it. Works well.
Jesse, you have the switchback on yours.
Yep. And yeah, I'm not sure yet. I really can't say if I like it. I like some of the aspects of it. I think I would like the Raven a little bit better for some of its features. Like this P2X doesn't have a pocket clip, so that's nice that it, makes a pocket clip on there. It does make it nice to index in the pocket. I've got like the other one here on this EB2 backup. I don't like this one as much just because there is no pocket clip and it sits way up there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know yet. Like I said, I don't have a good opinion on whether I like the thing to stay on there or if I'm going to change it up yet.
So, Matt, to you, yeah, the P2X3 and the P3X3, for those that are curious, does not come with a pocket clip. I really wish the P2X Fury did. Matt, in your opinion, are are pocket clips a necessity on a light if it's going to be for like any sort of EDC or carrying your pockets?
No, it just makes life easier. It just makes everything a lot simpler, easier to track where it is. It's not gonna, if it's in your pocket, it's not gonna slide around or become inaccessible. I know. Yeah,
Well,
again.
Something to align it is, especially if you're wearing bigger pants or your cargo pants or something like that, you're not fishing in your pocket for it. I think is the most important. I don't think I've trained enough with the Thyrum to make a determination either way. I know guys that love the switchbacks, but like I said, I have a key ring with a Trek key, and there's a key sticking out of my pocket, but it always indexes in the same place. I can always grab it. I can always find it, and I think just that index point is where the clip it comes into play, or any of these style things. That's the most important thing. Is I'm not fishing for it when I need it.
No, I think that's head on. Especially if you don't carry a weapon mounted light, I think I would highly recommend that you have some sort of clip especially for indexing, to where if you have to draw it, hopefully you get some low light training, so you're not just like probably doing some weird like FBI rave dance party thing, There we go. We can do this. But for getting that up, and whether it be cheek and neck and whatever the name is for it, or Harry's, that you have it and you're good to go right away. But
no, I will say, it made it nice for, like you said, when I didn't have the weapon mounted light running the 1911. To hold in the hand during reloads and stuff. Like I said, the thing I'm sure is the actual how you're supposed to be able to get a grip and kind of do that syringe grip on there with it. I found myself just going back to, like you said, more of a neck index or a Harry's grip with it. It did make it nice to where I didn't have to stow it or try to put it under an arm or do something crazy, throw the light on the ground. I could maintain control on the light while I did reloads and stuff, so that kind of made it nice. It does get in the way a little bit too, like I said. I mean, that's the only thing that's nice about the Raven, is that clip kind of folds down, so you can still get a good index with that pocket clip, but then you can put your finger through the ring, whereas on this Therm, it's such a stiff, ring that stays rigid in the pocket. It pretty much takes up all your pocket space, so you got to dedicate one pocket to a light only. Yeah. And when you're carrying in jeans, you're limited on space there. You might have to put your keys in the same pocket as your light or whatever the fact.
No, and something too is I'd say for running the P2X Fury, we had the 500 lumen version down at the low light class and in the shoot house. I found that I think the light has really great spill, a really good hot spot. But really, when you start getting it, especially when you're mixing those environmental factors, I think, and again, people need, I think 500 lumens is too much. And at night, I found about 25 yards or so was about the maximum of actually being able to really positively ID a target that this light provided me. Now, granted, 600 lumens versus the 500 I was running. Is there a difference? Absolutely dramatic. But what was you guys' thoughts from? Did you guys use either of those lights when you were down at Darcy?
Because I was up on the catwalk, so Dave was in the trenches killing the bad guys.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. I used multiples because I had so many guns go down, and I broke a lot of lights. I broke 2 X300s. I broke part of one of my scouts. I was running a different light. So all told, I ran an M300, an M600, 2 different X300Us, and a P3X at one point. So that was a long week. Holy, yeah.
All right, I now know who not to borrow any of this stuff in a class. Yeah. Oh, you said you didn't want this broken? Oh, I thought you said you wanted me to break it.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the Marine Corps, and they say Marines can break anything, but apparently, that's my special talent. God gives everyone a talent, and I can break everything. So.
Well, here's an interesting question. So you were up on the catwalk, Matt. Just from a perspective, I'm sure you saw various lights from 200 to 1,000.
Oh yeah.
What's kind of your feedback on when we look at, for example, carrying a 500 lumen light versus a 1,000 lumen light?
Well, it was easy to find where my light was because I loaned out 1,000 and I could easily see. But at the same time, I could see he was easier, or for him, it appeared to be easier for him to identify where the threats were to illuminate the area. It was funny to see some people with pistol lights, especially those weaker output lights, and the concrete structure. The light just kind of absorbed the light, or the walls absorbed the light, and some options were a lot more effective than others, to say the least. But also during the course, there was a lot of people learned about how to properly manipulate their light. On the first couple days, people would keep their lights on at all times. Then they realized, oh, the bad guy knows where I'm at now because they can read the light and the shadow. So, yeah, the better the output seemed to perform better on the bad guys.
Yeah, and again, we won't jump into it, but there's this whole, eliminating the vertical horizons, control, identification, communication, a whole bunch of stuff that these lights do. But what I'd like to preach to people for having as many lumens as possible, it'd be a 500,000, is movie theaters. Movie theaters. Which is a commonplace for active shooters. That's because they're gun-free zones, and darkness. Those are the two things to where IDing a target is crucial, especially in those. And those places are designed, again, to have no light absorbing things, to where you need all the lumens. That's why I think having a 500 lumen light this light right here fits right in. On SureFire's website right now, it's listed for $160 on SureFire's website right now. And again, we have a discount code for Big Tex Outdoors as well. And again, there's different models out there, so go check them out. And again, I'll have that out there. But the newest model is 600 lumens. I keep saying 500. 600 lumens. I think it's a great buy for especially at $160. Invest in a pocket clip, and I think you're good to go on it.
Yeah. So
here's the last one we're going to discuss, and I don't know if anybody has any experience with this other than myself. And this is SureFire's newest entry into the market. One of the newest entries is the P2X Fury with IntelliBeam technology. So that is auto-adjusting variable output LED. So the high end is 600 lumens, the low end is 15 lumens. It gives a tactical runtime of 1.5 hours. It's slightly larger than the P2X Tactical at 5.8 inches, bezel diameter of 1.37, body diameter of 1.0. Weight with batteries is a ½ ounce more than the P2X Fury at 6.2 ounces. And of course, runs on two 123A batteries. So here's the big deal with the IntelliBeam light. It has a little reader. For those that are watching on YouTube can see this. There's this little, it looks like a plastic hose right there or something, and that reads the distance, and then it scales the lumens output based off of distance. Basically, we'll have a video on this, but basically everything past 7 yards, it was pretty much running full max at 600 lumens. However, you can bypass the IntelliBeam technology with just a simple another press within a second. It goes maximum lumens, and then you can clicky tail cap that in as well to a maximum 600 lumens. If the clicky hit, if I'm saying that right, is the second click. It's a lot of clicks right there. So this comes down to, do you want a light that is smarter than your honor roll student kid? David, I'll go to you first.
For task light, I can see it, and I've talked to especially guys that work night shift that have just had all high, and they try to read something and go so something like that, sure, but I don't want it on a weapon light. I just want all high all the time. I want to press that button or hit the switch, or if you want to click, you want a pressure pad, whatever. I want it to be a lightning bolt, coming out of there as much as possible for a weapon light. But a task light, like, sure. I mean, we've seen a lot of these aftermarket, task lights that have like 25 settings and SOS, and they'll call grandma or some shit. And you always see guys like cycling through all that crap, and so that just kind of just takes it all away. So the flashlight might be smarter than you, but you don't have to be a genius to run it. You can just pull it out, you need to use it, and it works. I mean, I guess technically the IntelliBeam has 5,000 brightness settings. You just don't have to dick with any of them.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Auto-adjustable settings, if that's right. So, Matt, I'm going to throw this to you. I'm going to add a little caveat in here, because I immediately gave this to Steve Fisher, and his thing was like, okay, let's go see how it does on glass. That was the first thing Steve did. Walked up. Of course, glass is, of course, you can see through it, but when the light is measuring distance, It's noticed as a solid object. So, for you, how does that change any thoughts on the light?
Well, for me,
being in the LEO, background.
For me, first off, I'd want to have absolute brightness on my first clicky. No, I don't want to think about it. I want it to be maximum output on first click, no matter what. For any secondary ability, or even I guess for this, it's the primary ability. I want that to be something I have to think about to activate. Otherwise, no think, full blast. However, with this, what about the reflection of the light? Would that affect anything?
It doesn't read lumens at all. That is
okay,
one
so
misconception.
It's
purely
distance.
Purely
that's
distance.
Weird. Yeah,
and so again, that's everything that when I talk to SureFire about it in all the videos, yeah, it just reads distance. Here's if I don't know if we can. Yeah. So here's how I tend to show people. So if everybody can see the light on my hand that's watching on YouTube. So I'll take my hand, see how it brightens and goes down. But so, and I'm gonna I'll throw this back out, then I'll go back to you, Jesse, because you got to run it a little bit and get your thoughts on it. David, when you look at where SureFire is at least going with technology, do you think that maybe SureFire may have not knocked this out of the park, but they're working on that, solving that problem of maybe getting to something that people might like?
Well, for the last few years, SureFire has been, the name in, military and police flashlights for, well over a decade, and then we had all this crap came out of China, and then there are all these guys on flashlight forums and stuff talking about all these multi-settings, and you're paying too much for a SureFire just because they don't understand the durability aspect. And in the last year or so, SureFire has really, really ramped up a lot of their tech. I'm really looking forward to the XVL2. Man, I'm gonna get an erection just thinking about that. And one of the comments when I went through SureFire's new offerings at SHOT Show this past January was, well, now you have to go back to bitching about the price because you can't bitch about the features anymore. And you go back to the old standby of, oh, they cost more than $20. So I think that they're making a lot of strides, and they have to cater a little more to the civilian market these days. With war in Iraq ended, war in Afghanistan drawn way down, reduction in contracts, and we're seeing better tech from it. I like the idea of the IntelliBeam, and just because it doesn't necessarily apply to me doesn't mean it's not a good light. Not everything's going to be perfect, but I think it's definitely the right direction. Higher technology and doing what SureFire was known for in the beginning, innovation and really tough lights.
Yeah. So Jesse, what was your feedback? You got to watch me run it through the low light handgun class. We have a couple videos coming out on this, testing at different distances on a human size type of body. Ran it in the shoot house. What's kind of your thoughts on the light? Is the light smarter than you?
It definitely is smarter than me, no question about that. But it definitely has some downfalls and some things that are pretty cool about it. I would say, to its credit, as much as we fouled it up, it didn't seem to mess with the the distance reading on it. For that, I would say it is kind of slow to react to changing the light. I mean, again, we're talking maybe a second, but when you look at like auto tinting welding helmets and things like that, where it's like right now, and then you have that light, it's kind of definitely a noticeable slower change. So there was that. And again, it comes down to kind of just how I feel about dual output lights. It's like, is there a time and a place? I love the EB2 when I need to look for something in my car, and yeah, the light's right there in my face, and I can get 15 lumens. But when you talk about trying to get that full 600 out of it, compared to the P2X Fury, you just weren't really getting that with the IntelliBeam. It just didn't seem to have as nice of a hotspot, as much throw. And I think that has to do with, kind of the science or whatever parts in there, but it just didn't seem like it was putting out at the highest end compared to what would have been 100 lumens less in the P2X Fury. So You know, like we were saying, you know, SureFire, again, thinking outside the box, trying to be innovative in the industry, which I like. It's just, yeah, you know, from a duty aspect, from a concealed carry aspect, you know, I don't think it's the right light for me.
Yeah. So here, one thing is, so I ran this in the low light handgun, Sentinel Concepts low light handgun. And it's beat up. That was one thing I was curious about too. Of it, you know, does the magic that goes on in this light, the science that's in the flashlight, does that hold up? This thing did. I beat the crap out of it. For the rifle class, I can't. Who was the guy that was always getting yelled at in the class? McCord.
Yeah, McLord or
McCord, I don't know, something. We actually mounted this on his rifle, so he ran this light on his rifle the whole time. Because again, we were curious about the fouling aspect. If it really got fouled up, would that stop the sensor reading of distance on it? And then, of course, again, could it just handle, you know, maybe some more recoil on it? It did. The light ran, but as kind of everything we discussed here is. We're talking it's anywhere from 15 to 600, and you can, like Jesse mentioned, you can notice it, like, you know, let's say you're at a distance, it'll maybe hit at like 400, and then it'll scale up to 600. We felt like it was really only throwing 500. The hotspot, the beam, the brightness looked exactly the same as our 500 lumen P2X Fury. We didn't really, and we had brand new batteries in both. We felt like it was throwing about 500 lumens, but I like the design behind it. You know, basically everything 7 yards, and after it was throwing full, and it would scale down as we ran this target closer back to us, and you know, right up close, literally a foot and a half. You know, was it still pumping out a lot of lumens for that close to do the job? Sure. Could you use more? Always. So I view it as a task light. Like, this would be a great light for. I mean, my kids love flashlights. Granted, this is a little more expensive a light than I would give my kids, you know. But I view this as a great light for around the house. You're at a cabin, you know, some sort of light where you need it to be reliable. Because I mean, you know, you're not going to go out and spend this much money on a light just to, you know, to have around, throw it in the junk drawer. But if you need a reliable light for some sort of duty stuff, nothing to where it's my EDC or it's, you know, something I'm mounting my rifle, something that's going to where there could be that one time where you need all those 600 lumens and it says, I'm going to give you 250, let me know if that works. Because, you know, something that we ran a lot of in the low light classes, you know, when it's go time, you grab it and you smash it. And then the problem is what happens if it's not throwing that 600 when you grab and smash it. So that's the downside behind it is, oh crap, I got to click it again. And so it's one of those, again, if you're in a hurry, do you have time to sit there and click it twice? Are you going to remember to click it twice? So I like where SureFire is going with it. I love the thinking behind it. I mean, you know, this is almost Skynet in a light. I think we can all agree on that. But it's not there yet.
So you're saying we need to mount this to a rifle for a student at Darcy and see how he fares.
Yeah, I mean, you can notice it too, like Jesse talked about. Is it a second? No, it's not a second, but it's noticeable to where when you throw it up, you know, it'll hit and then it'll scale up. SureFire promotes that as, you know, it's going to help you keep your night vision or, you know, whatever. It's like, well, it's throwing that many lumens already. That's probably going to obliterate it anyways. But it's supposed to make you try to keep that night vision a little bit better, and it's not going to put that shock on. I'm not good with ocular stuff, but it's supposed to help with that shock to not give you that. But McCord basically found that running the drills, you know, with the rifle, is he could notice it, and it was just one of those things that really stands out to you because you know you put your light on it, you need to be focusing on what's going on, but he could obviously catch the scaling up of the light. Now, granted, we are talking white targets, you know, white paper targets, so that's going to obviously have a more noticeable effect on it. But it was something that's, you know, if you're running a drill with a rifle, you'd think that's not something that would be noticeable, but it is.
Well, and one thing to point out on that is, you know, you're running that, and he's noticing it on a line with 10 other students that all have lights on at the same time. So the ambient lighting around is quite sufficient. If you're by yourself, you know, that's one of those things where you have a broad shadow, and then all of a sudden, and you could really see it when we got to, running it by ourselves in the shoot house, where, yeah, it's definitely a really noticeable at that point that it's boom and then scales. So, yeah, hopefully, it comes through on the video again. That'll be the hard part, is determining for video in the shoot house at night, but we tried to get it for you guys.
Yeah. No, I think it would be interesting, Matt, for someone to run this light through Darcy.
Sounds like it would just get broken.
Yeah,
probably.
Don't let David touch it.
Yeah.
Don't let him touch it. But let's see here. Yeah, so the P2X Fury in Telebeam, it comes in a retail price of $229. And again, that is a sizable amount more than the standard P2X Fury. We're talking $70 more for, again, that distance reading. So I guess if you really want a task light, go for it. That will read distances, but otherwise, I think if someone's looking at the P2X Fury and Telebeam, I would push them more towards the P2X Fury. Anybody disagree with that statement?
Nope.
No? All right. I can speak for everyone. But that wraps up, the SureFire episode here. Any last thoughts on any of the flashlights before I move on to our one tech gadget app of the week and wrap it up?
By SureFire.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Now, here's this real quick, because I'm sure someone will bring this up and mention it. SureFire lights, they cost too much, or they're not affordable, and I totally get that. Not everybody can spend $200 on a flashlight. Are there any? Have you guys found any other sort of equally reliable lights or anything along those lines that might somewhat compare to any of the lights we're discussing?
Yeah, I've used conversion heads. I've been using, actually, I was introduced to Malkoff devices for the SureFire bulbs back when LEDs were kind of first hitting, and it was a way to kind of breathe life into these old incandescents that took a 60 lumen, 65 lumen, 120 lumen incandescent and put a nice Malkoff devices head in there. They've actually recently they've gotten more press with the Arasaka replacement scout light bodies, and the Arasaka defense bodies are fantastic. They fit around more front sights and stuff like that because they don't have the option for the SureFire Picatinny mount. Most guys if they're buying a SureFire scout light, buy the scout light, take the Picatinny mount, they throw it away, they put it on an Arson mount or an IWC mountain slot mount or the Arasakas, and it was designed with that in mind. And Malkoff started making M300 and M600 heads right away for that. So I do like the Malkoff stuff. I have been T&E in one 1200 lumen head for an M600, but I can't get much into that because I'm writing about it, and that has worked pretty well. That didn't break at Darcy. Everything else on my SureFires broke, but that head actually held up pretty good. And it was a good head. You're not getting the battery runtime out of it. I mean, 1200 lumens out of 2 CR123s. So it was a little bit of a flashback back to like 2004 because I got max lumens for 10 minutes. Yeah. That's changing batteries a lot, but you're basically putting your batteries on overdrive at that point in time. So I do like the Malkoff devices heads. The newer SureFires you can't really use them. The scout lights you can't. They don't have replaceable bulbs. Yeah, you can do a lot of convoluted stuff, but yeah. So that would be the only thing I'd mention is the Malkoff devices heads, and they've gotten recently more popular again. I know Weapon Outfitters, you can build your own scout light now with Arasaka and Malkoff parts. And that's all pretty good, but, aside from that, no.
Okay. Anybody else? Any last comments on any of the lights? All the lumens all the time, Matt?
No, I went from Maglite to Streamlight Stingers to jumped right into SureFire and haven't looked back.
All right. Jesse, I think after this whole week of night shooting a lot, low light classes, I think we're sold on SureFire.
Yeah, that where you, again, just step it up to the nods game. That's where the nighttime really is owned. I think one of the biggest debates I hear a lot is, but the TLR1 HL has 630 lumens or whatever it is, and the U-boat only has 500. But you got to talk about light quality, and I think that's one of the biggest things that until you can put them side by side and see what they do. The TLR1 HL's light quality just isn't as penetrating, I guess would be the word, as the X300 uses. Again, you're getting those, I think it's the tier bulbs, but they give it a little more orangish light instead of a bluish light. And yeah, I felt like, the TLR1s were just kind of eaten up with just the environment out there. So I think testing a lot of the lights and seeing them, that was one of the greatest parts of going to these low light classes is, you got to see all the LZs, all the O-lights, all the other brands, and it just, I reaffirmed that I'm a SureFire fanboy for life, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you do bring an interesting point up, though, is that your reflector assembly and your LED quality does matter a lot. I mean, if you crank out 2,000 lumens and it's a reflector assembly that doesn't work well for your job, then it doesn't, if it's all throw, if it's all hotspot, if there's no flood, I mean, what are you doing with it? And so, I mean, lumens are the thing we focus on the most, and it is an important thing because you could have an all flood and high lumens and still penetrate darkness just by power. But I mean, your reflector assembly, and I was wondering that about the IntelliBeam. I wanted to put an IntelliBeam and a P2X side by side and see if the reflector assembly is different. A slightly different reflector assembly. Does that sensor add an artifact in there? That's why it looks like it's not as bright?
It does add, yeah. So, for example, the readers on this side right here, it does give a little bit, you can see there's an artifact and light, the little shadow there on it, in just the very edge of the spill.
Yeah, and I think one other thing we should talk about is, like you were talking how you're kind of testing a new SureFire. Steve has a X300U body that puts out 2,500 lumens. And
I heard
again,
about that.
you can see that, the hotspot would be the same as a regular U-boat. You're still getting that same throw with that same hotspot. It's just the spill around you. So all of a sudden it opens it up from, maybe like a 25-degree field of view to like a 75-degree, and it makes it where it's 2 foot off the gun instead of 5 foot out in front of you. You start getting that light, and it's very, very orange. It's almost got that incandescent glow to it where I think it would eat through smoke and things like that. But again, you're talking battery life. He's got to use rechargeables for it. I think it's got something about a 27-minute runtime somewhere in there. So, for, again, we talk this all the time where the mission kind of drives the gear. And for someone who's doing quick action raids, but for prolonged search parties, stuff like that, that wouldn't be kind of the light to have there. So, just things to think about.
No, take lights out at night and see how they work at different distances. Check the hotspot, check the throw. And again, something we had the opportunity, again, doing this at night, because again, not very many people get to train at night, is look at the spill and see if you have shadows in your spill. That's the biggest difference that I've seen in all the SureFire lights versus everybody else's, is you would see, it almost looks like a wave of light. It sounds weird to say, but you'll see the shadows throughout your spill, or like different like levels of light, kind of like bars in the actual spill. And that's where I think SureFires, from what I have seen, again, we saw O-lights, stream lights, LZs. There was all sorts of lights out there at the class. Some guy even brought a USB one. It had the most consistent spill. That's what seemed to me is really what sets SureFire apart. And again, all these lights were the most popular ones in the class. Obviously, I was the only one with the IntelliBeam, but the P2X Fury, P3X Fury were hands down the most popular in the class, the most used in the class, and I think the overall best performers.
That and bezels, even the SureFires, they have some of those models that have a lot of bezels around the DNA collectors used as defensive devices. But the thing about those is when you start to look at what kind of throw and spill they're putting out, those create a lot of shadows in there. So, you know, the farther you get out and, yeah, trying to take on, you know, multiple, obviously we had multiple steel targets out at range, it was like it started to kind of obscure that, you know, that vision a little bit. In those ridges, you would have a dark spot with a light spot, a dark spot with a light spot, and that would kind of convey around. So I would, yeah, I don't know. I would look at other options for your defensive tool instead of trying to make that one size fits all. Like my flashlight, I can pull it out and beat somebody to death with it. Like, no, use it as a flashlight. You know.
Then you can get a flashlight tattoo tear on your face. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Just be
So
sweet.
big.
Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me.
Just you.
But I'm going to move us on here from our SureFire episode for the tech gadget of the week. So for everybody that listens to my show knows I'm a big 300 blackout dude, and I have the burst eliminator 2 optic on my Tika T308 bolt, which has to do a lot of, you put in your dope at 500 yards of your drop, and it calculates stuff. So I've needed to jump into a ballistic calculator, and I tried a bunch of them out there. I've had the Nikon one for my old Nikon scopes and different ones. I've pretty much, in my opinion, found the best one at the most expensive cost. So for those guys that aren't precision guys, you're probably going to scoff at this. But the Ballistic Advanced Edition, it's by JBM Ballistics. It's a trajectory calculator, rangefinder, target shooting log. It's $20. It's on iPhone and iPad only. But for me, it is the most comprehensive app that I can find. For me, knowing what a bullet drop is going to be at 500 yards is really important for my Burst Eliminator 2 optic, and 300 blackouts because I shoot weird stuff out of that gun. But I found this to be the best overall app. The biggest things for me is it gives you, you can put in spin and stability, the Coriolis effect. It even has that in there. Wind drifts, you can actually add in multiple different wind drifts into this as well. You can save everything. Zero range has wind velocities, wind directions. It'll automatically load in atmospheric conditions based off of your location, barometer. It even gives you your shot angle, so you can actually angle the phone about your trajectory for your shot, and it'll read that angle and give you that information. It's the most comprehensive ballistic calculator that I have found for me. However, it is only available on iPhone and iPad, and it's $20. So I don't know if either of you guys shoot precision at all. I know Jesse doesn't. It's an app I'd recommend if you're willing to fork out $20 for it.
And if you have an iPhone.
And if you have an iPhone, yeah.
I mean, at $20, it would probably be the most affordable precision item I'd ever own. Actually, I mean, you said precision, and I'm thinking like, okay. And he said $20, and I was almost primed for oh, it's $500. And but I'm in an Android house now. Damn it.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can't have it. I'm sorry.
No, there's some good apps out there for Android. I don't know. I think I've got one called MilDot and a few others that are on there that, yeah, you have to use maybe 2 different apps to get all your dope and everything in there, but they're free.
Yeah, the biggest one for this one has a log in there, so
right.
That was the biggest change that I have. But we have no listener feedback this week. Also a reminder about the Second is for Everyone Diversity Shoot events. Be sure to check out the Facebook page. So we're going to wrap it up here. So, David, it was a pleasure having you on, sir. The best hair on the show, hands down.
Easily.
Easily, yes. I'll say best beard, too. I'm going to say best beard. I'm gonna edge you out over Jesse.
It's almost full rapist length, but I told my wife that the other day, and she said if it gets any longer, I will actually have to be a rapist if I want to have sex with her. So it will be trimmed shortly.
Yeah. No, it's very dapper with the hair, so it goes well. It's a complimenting package for sure.
That is the best name I've ever heard for a beard ever, hands down. They need to add. Have you guys seen that shirt where it measures the length of your beard? They need to put one on the sides that just has rapey factors, if that's a word. Ryan's never let me guest host the show again.
Right.
But so David, what do you have coming up? What's going on in your world, man?
Well, I mean, I travel for work, man. That's what I do. I'm heading to Phoenix later this week, and then I'm down in Texas, and I'm in Fort Bragg. So yeah, it's a big month for traveling for me. There's, that's what's going on, I guess.
Okay. So if people want to go read your articles, where should they go?
You can go to Recoil's webpage, which is recoilweb.com. We also have previews for our print issues. We have exclusive web content, and then also breachbangclear.com. And I will be discussing lumens tomorrow on breachbangclear.com, actually, about my journey from, oh my God, too many lumens to an all the lumens quasi-cult member. So.
Did that happen in 1 week?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I was curious if that happened with Matt. He has that effect on people. So.
No, it's been a little while, but it took longer than it should have. To be fair. So if I want to be perfectly honest about it, it's about like, hey, don't be a dumbass like me and get your head out of your ass, kind of thing. So.
Well, Matt, I'll move on to you. What is going on with primary and secondary?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing.
Just moving right along.
Primary and secondary.com. Again, it's probably one of the best forums out there. It's the only forum that I go to now. I don't go there enough. I know that. Of course, the Facebook groups, primary and secondary, and Novus. What other? You have so many of them. I can't think.
Gear Medical.
Gear Medical.
Off Topic, which the mods really want to get rid of that one.
Yeah.
Don't you have the aviation one too?
That one's kind of unofficial, but it exists. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think of that one ever.
But here's the thing for you guys out there, and I'll put links in the show notes. Be sure to check this out. If you guys are looking for actually intelligent conversations, most of the time, these groups are pretty much the go-to. There's guys there that have far more experience than a lot of us ever will, and have more knowledge, and that they're willing to share for the right audience. So you guys can go there, and primary and secondary I rarely post in, but I just read it and watch a lot, because there's a lot of dudes that have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that everybody wants. So Matt, great job in putting all these groups together.
Thanks.
Of course, go to primary and secondary.com. They have a great forum there. Actually, there's a Practically Tactical has a little sub community right there that I need to post more in. So Jesse, we were in Alliance, Ohio for a week. We took 2 Sentinel Concepts class. Now we're back to real life, which sucks.
Unfortunately, we're gonna miss the partner shoot house this coming up weekend, which too much traveling, man. It takes its toll. But
Recoil should hire us.
Definitely.
Yeah,
sponsored by Trigicon and Team Wendy. No.
But what's going on with you, Jesse?
Oh, just back to the holster grind. Yeah, got an awesome show coming up this week with Craig Douglas. Super excited about that tomorrow. So if you guys got some free time, tune in. We'll be talking some ECQC type stuff. Definitely just training I think's invaluable, and just super intimidating as a student of the gun. This is one class that I kind of dread taking, just because none of us are to that MMA level we'd like to be, I guess. But other than that, man, waiting for SHOT Show to come up. Hopefully some more classes coming up. We got some cool things coming up in the future.
A lot of big things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're out there. Check out Practically Tactical. We have Craig Douglas coming on, ECQC. That's the only class of people that I've talked to that have taken. They're like, I didn't want to go back the second day. So that's going to be a great show. We have William April coming up, which for those that aren't familiar with William April Consulting. I can't remember which firearms training he's with now as well. But he has a lot of mindset from the opposite side, the bad guy, the profiling, what they think, how they pick targets. We'll have him on the show as well, and then of course we'll have Trek on the show after that. So check us out over at Practically Tactical. So of course, if you guys have any, if you have any questions, comments, You want to tell Ryan to never have me guest host on the show again, you can email him at podcast@firearmsinsider.tv or cross@firearmsradio.tv. Also, please remember to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. I can't tell you guys enough how one review helps boost up a show's rankings, so please do that. Check out all the shows here on the Firearms Radio Network by visiting firearmsradio.tv/iTunes. Also, be sure to visit the Firearms Insider Facebook page for reviews and industry coverage, and of course, visit firearmsinsider.com.tv as well. So I'm going to wrap it up here. David, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for coming on. Jesse, well, you're Jesse. And Matt, it is an honor as always to have you on. So I thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So everybody out there, take care. We'll catch you next time.